All right. Hi, guys. It's so good to see you all. Okay, so I'm just going to dive into things because I'm super duper excited. So today, if you don't know me, first off, my name's Ashley Taylor. I am the founder and CEO of ChargedUp Careers. We are a career coaching company focused on helping engineering, operations, and project management professionals in their career search. But today we are going to be talking to Trent Randles. He is, okay, I'll give you a little bit of background. And how we got connected. So for me, I love reaching out to really high performing leaders in the sustainable transportation industry. And I love reaching out to them. And generally it goes something like, I creep on them first. And then I reach out and I say something along the lines of like, I've looked at your career, you've done some incredible things. I would just love to learn a little bit more about your career journey and your perspective on the industry. And I do that a lot because I feel like I can get good insight then to help me share it with the people that I coach. So that's how I got linked up with Trent. He is just an incredible person. He's like, absolutely, let's chat. So when I talk with people, I want to be mindful of their time. So where I was like, we scheduled it for 30 minutes. We talked for over an hour. He is just an incredible person. He's worked for huge suppliers like Magna. He's worked for Bodge Warner. He's worked for Plastics Omnium. So when we talked, I was really excited just to hear his career journey there because obviously those are some tycoons. And then when we continued our conversation, and it actually then turned into a second call because we didn't even get through everything because it was just such a great conversation that I won't spill the beans because he's going to tell you a little bit about it. But I learned a little bit more about his career journey. And I was like, oh my gosh, would you do a LinkedIn Live with me? I know that my network, is full. You could share so many. He's just knows so much from a technical perspective from advanced manufacturing. He's such an incredible leader and has led large teams and has just such a good outlook on leadership. And then his career journey is just so inspirational. So when he agreed to come on LinkedIn Live, I'm so happy and I'm so grateful and I'm so excited for you all to be able to learn from him a little bit. So let me bring him in here. Yes, here we go. Hey, Trent.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Thanks again for joining us here. I'm so excited. Like I said, when we chatted, your journey, you're such a smart person, but like your passion and it exudes, and your story and the tenacity that the resilience you've had in your career. I'm just so excited for everybody to get to learn a little bit more about you. So thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, like I said, when we chatted, your journey through your career was just incredible. So you started as a mechanic and now you're like a maverick in the advanced manufacturing industry. So I wanted just to kind of start because yes, I could tell your story because a little bit, but like hearing it from the horse's mouth, do you want to just tell us all like a little bit about how you navigated your career thus far?
I'll do it as clear as I can. So, started out, came out of high school and, for a career I picked, I'm going to be a auto mechanic. That's, kind of in the back of my mind. I kind of had this desire to be an engineer, but I thought, man, engineering school is really hard. I'm not sure, academics that much is really for me. So, ended up going to NASCAR Technical Institute right out of high school. Went there to learn how to build race cars, of all things. Graduated there, ended up moving back to Seneca, South Carolina, which is where I've been living for several years. And that's where my fiance, who is now my wife, lives. So moved back to our hometown and got to work at a Ford dealership as an auto mechanic. And I literally just started out as the oil change guy, the guy that changed oil, rotated tires, ran errands for the shop. Started there. Over the course of 4 years, I worked at that dealership, moved to a Chevrolet dealership, and along the way, I was moving up the ranks. But I just, at a certain point, I found myself, I'm working 10 hours a day at the shop. I come home, eat dinner really fast, and then I go out to the driveway and I spend 4 hours doing side work. And, just doing that day after day and week after week. And, at a certain point, I realized, you know what, this is not what I want for my life or for my family. So, I want a job where, it's more like a 9-to-5 type job, and I can spend more time with my family and, provide for them better and everything. So, again, like I said, coming out of high school, I had it kind of in the back of my mind that I want to be an engineer, but I don't know if that's for me, So, I got it and started looking around at my options, and nearby where we lived, there was a nuclear power plant, and my dad had worked there for his whole career, and so I thought, I know a lot of people that work there. I feel like that would be a good solid place to work, So ended up getting in touch with one of the hiring managers there, and at this point in my career, all I have is high school diploma and a diploma from a trade school in automotive science. So I called him, I talked to him, explained the situation, told him, what do I need to do to get a job here? And he said, well, ideally we hire, for this particular area, you're talking about going to work in operations, and typically we hire people with 4-year engineering degrees, or we hire them out of the Navy that have gone through the Naval Nuclear Power School. But at a bare minimum, you would need a 2-year associate degree in like an engineering technology type major. And so I said, okay, well, the quickest thing I can achieve is that 2-year degree in engineering technology. So, hung up the phone with him and skipped forward a couple of weeks, and I am at Tri-County Technical College, which is one of the local college where I lived, and going through the admission process. And so one thing I had to do through the admission process is I had to take assessment tests on where I would place in English and math, and got the results back. English was good. I started out at English 101. Math, however, was not so good. It said, based on your score, you're going to have to start in remedial math. And I said, what does that mean? They said, that means that is the lowest math class we offer. And I'm here to get an engineering degree. I mean, it's a 2-year degree, but there's all, I already have to take 3 or 4 math classes. And they said, well, this is, this is it. You have to start here. So I felt like at that point, I'm already facing this mountain. I've left one career to pursue a different career, and I just felt like, man, mountain just got that much taller. But I thought, okay, let me just step back, assess the situation, vet all my options. So I realized through some research that I could take a 1-week course. So basically in 4 days, I would learn all the material they would cover in the 16-week semester. And then on that Friday, I would take a test on all that material. If I scored a 90 or better, I would get credit for that class and be able to go to the next math class. So I said, okay, I will sign up for that. So did the 1-week course, got about 90 something on the test. I was able to skip that math course and then started the next one, which was just the next class up from remedial math. But, so here I am at Tri-County Tech. I'm a few weeks in, and I'm already nervous just going into it, just thinking, am I going to be able to handle this? I mean, I really, I just felt like, I was more of a hands-on person, not necessarily an academic person. So, I get a few weeks into it, and one of the classes I'm taking is a physics class. And I really got my first, I would say reality check, first physics test. So I took the test, get the grade back, and I made a D. And I thought, you know what? I did not walk away from one career, get another job that would work with my school schedule, go through all this trouble to make D's. I came here, to make A's, nothing less than an A. And so I really buckled down, not just on that class, but other classes, and, skip ahead to the end of that semester, ended up with an A in that class. But I remember when I got to the end of that semester, I thought, and I had all A's, and I thought, wow, I can do this. And so skip ahead a couple more semesters. I've got 3 semesters under my belt. I'm still making straight A's. And I think, it's not easy, but I'm capable of doing this. And so, a year into it, that's when I made the decision, okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish out this 2-year degree. And that way I have the bare minimum credentials I need to get a job at the local power company, but I'm going to keep going and get my 4-year degree. And so as I'm progressing along, getting towards the end of graduating with my 2-year degree, I, start figuring out, okay, where am I going to transfer for the 4-year degree? And so, logically, I think, well, Clemson University is right, 10 minutes down the road. So I start discussions with the admission coordinator at Clemson, the university that works with students coming from Tri-County Tech or other community colleges. And so, I settle on, okay, I'm going to transfer into mechanical engineering. And so I start, finish my 2-year degree, and I should back up right around the 2-year degree. I was approaching that mark, and all the while I'm staying in touch with this hiring manager at the power plant, Duke Energy. And so, I'm letting them know, hey, I'm serious. I'm doing this. I'm, going to graduate with the 2-year degree. And so he's telling me, okay, well, just start applying. When you see open positions in operations, start applying. And so, I'm, for the last year, leading up to my graduation, I'm applying for not just jobs in operations, but any job I'm remotely qualified for. And so, but the whole time I'm not hearing anything back. I'm just applying, getting no feedback. So I just assume no news is bad news, not getting the job. So anyway, I get to, graduate my 4-year degree, and then I've made the decision, okay, when I get to that point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to take another 2 semesters of classes at Tri-County Tech before I can transfer to Clemson. So I started going down that path of taking the transfer courses, and I get to the point where it's time to actually sign up for classes at Clemson University. And I realize, all of these classes are between about 8:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon, Monday through Thursday. That's when I work. That's not feasible. And so again, I hit a point where and then I got to that point and I realized, okay, that plan's out the window. But I've set the goal for myself to get a 4-year engineering degree. And so I had noticed around campus for a while, University of South Carolina Upstate, which is another university that's about an hour away from Clemson. They were advertising this program called Engineering Technology Management. And so I wasn't really sure about it, wasn't really sure what it was about, but I did know it was an ABET accredited program. That was important to me, that I get a 4-year degree from the ABET accredited program. So did some research on it, figured out or learned that it's basically industrial engineering with a heavy emphasis on project management. And I thought, well, I was wanting to go mechanical engineering, but I think at this point, this is my best option, to get the 4-year degree. And then that way I'm eligible for getting a job at Duke Energy, right?
So how old were you at this point? Just out of for frame of reference.
So I was 24. I just turned 24 when I started at Tri-County Tech. So at this point, I was about 26, almost 27.
So not I'm just so not conventional,
No.
Yes, yeah.
Not at all.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of the classes I was in, I was definitely the oldest person in there. And so, so I ended up going, transferring to USC Upstate. And so, to finish my 2 years out there. But in the meantime, though, after I was at USC Upstate for about a year, so all the while for 3 or 4 years, I've been applying to jobs at Duke Energy. I mean, that was my goal, was to get a job, at Duke Energy in some position. I just, just from what I'd heard, if you just get your foot in the door, you can move around different positions. So, and I'm still just not hearing anything back. Well, about a year into my time at USC Upstate, I applied for a co-op position. Now, keep in mind, I'm 27 or no, I'm 28. I'm 28 years old. Okay. But I applied for a co-op position with Duke Energy. I was at one of their transmission hub, what they call a hub, in Greenville, South Carolina, which is about 45 minutes from where I lived. And that's the part of the business that maintains substations and high voltage lines. And again, I'm going to school for basically an industrial engineering degree, but I'm applying for a position that normally like an electrical engineering major would apply for. But I thought, look, I'm just putting all my cards on the table, just trying everything. So I apply for it and I get a call back. And so I go in for the interview, and then end up getting the job. And so here I am, after all these years of applying to the same company, I finally get a job. And so now I'm working at Duke Energy, going to USC Upstate. And so I feel like, okay, I'm getting close. I'm almost there. And so I spend a year there working as co-op. I finish out my degree at USC Upstate. And when it gets towards the end, I'll let my manager know and the engineer I was working under, hey, graduation's coming up. Are there any open positions? And it just so happened they were going through kind of a transition period where they had restructured some of the teams. Some of the people got promoted. So that opened up some positions. So I ended up interviewing for 4 different positions, or I applied for different positions, interviewed for 2, got 0 job offer. So I thought, man, I have spent years literally trying to, get a job at this company, and I got this close. And so when I graduated from USC Upstate, at the time, my father-in-law ran a chain of retail stores in the area, and he was building a new one. And so I ended up taking over and managing construction of that store. And so that was in May. And so wanted to say about August. It was about August. I'm just sitting at my desk at work, working away. I get a call out of the blue, and it's a recruiter. And they said that they have an open position they're trying to hire for at Plastic Omnium for a validation engineer. And I'd never heard of a validation engineer. I looked at the job description. I thought, well, that's not what I was looking for, but it's something I can do. So I said, yes, please set up an interview. So I went and interviewed. About a week later, heard back, didn't get the job. So, okay, there's another, it's a no. So skip ahead a couple months, and my wife tells me, hey, there's a job fair later this week at the basketball coliseum at Clemson University. It's open to the public. You should go there, see if, apply for some jobs there. So I go to the job fair, and when I was walking in, I thought, I need to see if Plastic Omnium's here, because it was a manufacturing type job fair, or is geared towards engineers. And so I knew there's going to be a lot of manufacturers there. So I went straight to the list of all the companies that were there. And sure enough, Plastic Omnium was listed on there. So I made a beeline for their booth. And as I'm walking up, there's 2 guys standing there. One of the guys is the guy that I interviewed with. So I go up to him and I reconnect with them, let them know I'm still looking for an engineering type position. And so he introduces me to the recruiter that's there. We have a good conversation. It didn't seem like anything was going to come of it. It was just, hey, I'm Trent. It's my background, So I go around all the different companies and talk to them. And as I am headed on my way to the door to leave, I hear somebody yelling my name. And so I turn around and I see the recruiter from Plastic Omnium is waving me down, and he comes up to me and he says, I want to hire you. I don't know what we're going to do with you, but I want you to come work at our company. We will find something for you to do. So look for a call from, either from myself or, another recruiter by Tuesday next week to set up an interview. So sure enough, Tuesday the following week, got a call from a recruiter, set up the interview. So I went within a few days, went and interviewed with a couple individuals at Plastic Omnium, and within a week I had an offer. And so I started out at Plastic Omnium. Actually, I think it's a position that they didn't use very often. I think they just had to make up a title, basically. But it was called a junior program manager. And so for the first 6 months I worked there, I was responsible for coordinating the new builds. So Plastic Omnium, the plant I worked at, they made exterior body panels for BMW, for the BMW SUV, so X3 to X5. And so, my job was to coordinate, making sure the right design level bumpers and fenders and the different parts they made were shipped out, and the engineers were, building prototypes with all right design levels. So I did that for the first 6 months. But, leading up to the end of that 6 months, I knew I'm here as a contractor. So I've got my foot in the door, but it's not guaranteed. And so, you guys told me that you wanted me to work here, and, nothing full-time is appearing yet. But when it came close to that 6 months, at that time, the plant I worked at, they did plastic mold injection and painting. But then I started hearing rumors that they were going to create a whole assembly department. And so so I heard that they're sure enough, they're going to create an assembly department, and they're going to need an assembly engineer to support this assembly department. And so I interviewed for that job and ended up getting it. So so that's what I transitioned at the end of that 6 months, became the assembly engineer for the Anderson, South Carolina plant for Plastic Omnium. And, from there for the next couple years, year and a half, 2 years, I spent that time receiving new equipment from the design engineers, and then working with the maintenance techs, and really just focused on continuous improvement, keeping the machines running. So, that was a great experience because I got to see, I was basically the end user. And so, but you went through that time, and then the management realized, we have one group that's designing the equipment, and we have one group that is maintaining the equipment. But there seems to be a disconnect between, when we hand off the new equipment, we have to make a lot of modifications and a lot of upgrades that could have been done up front. And so they created a new position, and they actually asked me if I'd be interested in this position that was being assigned to the design team. So they essentially took what they would call a plant engineer or assembly engineer that's supporting the plant, and attached them to the design team. And so I took on that role, and something that I always remember about that time in my career is sitting in my first design review. And a design review is where you have engineers from all different disciplines sit in a conference room. You have the CAD engineers that pull up the CAD drawings of the new vehicle, and we're going through every aspect of the injection mold, the painting, the assembly, because what we're doing is making sure these parts are designed so we can build 800, 900, 1,000 of them a day. Sure. And so I thought, I thought back, so in that design review, I thought back to my days as a mechanic, and I remember complaining about the engineers that designed this car because it's so hard to replace this part or get to this part. And then I thought, you know what? I am one of those engineers now. And I thought, yeah. And then I realized at that point, you know what? I understand now why cars are designed the way they are. Anyway, so I did that for a period of maybe 2.5, 3 years. And that was a great experience because that's where I really got good experience, or I realized the importance of getting buy-in from all the stakeholders. And the stakeholders meaning from operators to maintenance techs to the quality engineer, everybody that's going to be affected by the assembly line. But so went through that phase, and then at a certain point, Plastic Company built a new plant in Greer, South Carolina, which is about 45 minutes away. And again, they created a new position. It's called a project engineer, and this role was to lead different engineers from different disciplines across injection mold, painting, assembly, packaging, supply chain, to lead them in developing a new vehicle to bridge the gap between all those departments and promote synergy and ensure that there's no barriers, everybody's working together. And so so I did that for a few years, and again, that was I learned things in that role that I couldn't have learned otherwise, right? So I got to the end of that career, and then I was reached out by Magna. They had a plant that they needed some that wasn't performing real well, and they wanted to bring people on board that could help them turn the ship around, so to speak. And so I went there. I spent 1 year there, and made a lot of good progress there. And that was another good learning experience for me because that was the first time I was actually in a manager position, and so that's where I had to transition from in the project engineer position. I was more of a had to lead by motivation and influence. Then when I went to Magna, I actually became a manager. Now I'm not only leading by motivation, influence, but leading by authority. But to me, you don't have to have the title of manager or director or whatever. Anybody can lead by motivation or influence.
Right.
So, but in that role, though, again, that's I started getting the building blocks, I would say, of my leadership experience. So so after a year at Magna, I got call from Borg Warner, and it was same situation. They they were looking for someone to come in and just help get the assembly lines performing as they should, and also to revamp their the technology, the automation, and the digital technologies that they were using and they wanted to use. They wanted to bring more of into the plant. And so went to Borg Warner, and really the driving factor there was the commute from my house to Magna was really long, and so that was one of the main factors. But at the same time, too, I felt like Magna had had good people in place that were going to sustain the improvements, and so I was just looking for a new challenge, and so went to Borg Warner, and I've been at Borg Warner the past almost 2.5 years now. And again, it's just, I just feel like every day is just learning more and more. I came in, lead the manufacturing engineering team at Borg Warner for transfer case assembly. And, for me, assembling transfer cases was totally new. Up to that point, my expertise was assembling plastic parts. Assembling plastic parts, ultrasonic welding, which is welding plastic parts together, punching holes in plastic parts. And then now at Borg Warner, it's all about assembling metal components, which is different. They have their own challenges and nuances, but in general, it's the same. Assembly is assembly. But yeah, so that's kind of my journey at a high level.
Yes. A couple things that so I think it's so amazing that in your early 20s that you could make that decision to just keep pushing. That's like, and then I know like you didn't even, your career is like so many things with your MBA and then your PhD, and it's just going after that. That's always been like that kind of that perseverance. I thought that a couple of things that, one, shout out to your wife. I'm sure, encouraging you to go to that career fair for plastic omnium.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that was a lot to juggle between like you working full time, you going to school, and everything like that. That's a lot, especially to have that maturity at that age is that's a huge thing.
Yeah, I know I skipped over several things, but yeah. So when I'm trying to think. So in my undergrad, so I was about 2.5 years into my undergrad. Yeah, so it was, I think, second to last semester at Tri-County Tech. That's when my oldest son, my oldest son was born, and so I actually took, yeah, he was, let's see, he was born in February, so I took that one semester off, and then I started back in May, in the summer semester, and so he was 3 months old, barely, when I started back to school. And then my youngest son was actually born just a few or 2 or 3 weeks, no, 2 weeks. And it was 2 weeks after I graduated from USC Upstate. And so in that time too, so in my undergrad time, basically had two children. We moved, I think we moved 3 times. We went through a remodel in one house. We built a house. Yeah, I mean, life did not stop. So,
For sure.
yeah.
That's amazing. The other thing that I kept hearing, which is just a testament, I think, to you and the potential that people saw in you, was how many times positions were created for you.
Yeah, and it was something, I mean, not expected. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just going along my business, just doing the best I can, just giving it all I have. And then those opportunities just kept coming up, so,
Yep.
I feel like, I was doing a good job, good enough for them to, keep creating positions and offering them to me. So, but I know a couple things I skipped over. I talked about my professional career. Also, I have academic career that was also progressing in parallel with my professional career. So, finished undergrad at USC Upstate. Took a few years off from school, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to go back. At some point, I just made the decision I'm going to get my master's, and then I'm going to get my PhD. I mean, I just feel like that's the next progression. Like that's two next mountains I'm going to climb. So, so I applied to Clemson University for my master's in industrial engineering, and I go through the admission process, and you have to get letters of recommendation, and you write essays, and all this, and so I apply, and I get rejected, and I'm thinking, what? How did I get rejected? I mean, I've got the right undergrad credentials. I've got 3 years of engineering experience. How did I get rejected? And so so I actually go to the faculty member at Clemson, have one-on-one conversation with them to understand why did I get rejected? It seems like I'm should be no question about it. And he had concerns that I could not work full time and keep up with my academics. And so, I could not convince him otherwise. So again, I thought, okay, well, I ran into another, obstacle here. Let me assess my, options, see what the best thing to do here is. So I went to a different faculty member, applied through him, and he basically said, if you think you can handle working full time and you get your master's, then I'll take you on. And I said, I know I can do it. So, so he, accepted my application, and then a few years later, I'm graduating from Clemson with my master's. And right as soon as I go with my master's, I then start the application process for my PhD in automotive engineering. And so, and it's even more, the admission process is even more strenuous. And then sometime there, I knew that I have to take the GRE because you have to have minimum GRE scores. So earlier that year, I'd taken the GRE, and so I felt like I did pretty good, and so I submitted my scores. Went through the PhD program, and the feedback I get was denied, and I thought, how did I get denied? Again, I've got undergrad, I've got masters, I've got now I've got even more. I've got 6 years of experience as an engineer, and even the last few years have been more of a leadership position. So how am I getting rejected? And the feedback was, well, your math GRE score was 7 points below the minimum. And I thought, well, it's just 7 points on a GRE score. I mean, I can do the work, And so, basically the answer was it's a no-go, So I thought, okay, again, let me assess the options before I'm not giving up. I mean, that's out of the question. Worst case, I'll just apply next semester. And if I don't get in then I'll just apply the next semester. But instead of just doing the same thing over and over again, let me find the lesson learned here, right? So I did some research. I read through the graduate handbook, and I realized I could apply to the PhD. I could take PhD classes as a non-degree seeking student, and 12 courses, which is basically 4 classes, would transfer once I got accepted into the PhD program. And so, through that admission process, I learned, based on my work experience, I only needed 4 classes to complete my course requirements. So instead of just giving up or waiting until the next year, I just went ahead and signed up for the first class I had to take. So, and in parallel, I thought, well, I'm also going to need to take the GRE again. So I'll, for the next 6 months, I'll study for the GRE, and then I'll work through this class, and then I'll take the GRE again, and then I'll apply again next year. And so that's what I did. So January, started my first PhD class and studying for the GRE again. So skip ahead 5 or 6 months, I start the admission process again, and gathering all the documents. And I remember when I was writing my essay, so at this point I actually started my skip ahead a little further. So actually I'd taken 3 classes by this point when I decided to apply again. So started taking 3 classes, going through the PhD admission process, and when it came time to start putting everything together, I followed up with my advisor and said, okay, I'm going to take the GRE again because my scores were too low last time. And he said, actually, we've actually waived that now, so you don't have to submit your GRE scores. And I thought, are you kidding me? I've been studying many, many months to take the GRE, but that's great. I'm okay with that. So, but I remember having to write multiple essays for this admission process, and in there it asked, what the topic was motivation. Why are you motivated to do this? And I remember just listing out, okay, at age 20, graduated automotive trade school, worked as a mechanic. 24, started engineering school. 29, graduated. 33, 32, 33, started masters. 36, graduated masters. Applied for PhD program this long ago. I was denied because my GRE scores were too low. So instead of just waiting again, just giving up or waiting for another year to apply, I just went ahead and signed up as a non-degree seeking student so I could go ahead and start taking classes. I was studying for GRE, planning to take it again. And so at this point, I realized, I've already completed 3 of the 4 classes I need for my course requirements, and I've got a 3.5 GPA. So when I applied this time, I thought, okay, I don't need a GRE score. I've already taken 3 of the 4 classes I need, and I've worked full time. And at this point, I'm working as an engineering manager. So I've worked full time as an engineering manager, maintained 3.5 GPA. I have great recommendation letters. There's absolutely no way they're not going to take me this time. And so second time around, they did accept me. Thank goodness. So, but yeah, so I just like felt like at each stage there, I just kept running into some kind of obstacle. But again, I just step back, assess the options, and find a path forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to me, the two things, one, the word that comes to my mind, and maybe this isn't maybe the best, bullheaded. Bullheaded. It comes to mind, like your no excuse mentality. Like this is gonna happen, and I'm gonna find a way. I think that's absolutely amazing. And then also just kind of your student mentality of like kind of keep pushing to the next level to keep learning. And I know like one thing I wanted to highlight here for everybody is like, and now you sit on these advisory boards for these schools. You speak at these leading, industry events. So it's really a testament to everything that you've gone through. But then now you're, also like kind of, giving back as well, which is really, really amazing. So I wanted to ask you, just from a technical perspective, for our technical people out there, from like you, I know you do a ton. We talked about in the manufacturing setting, you've had the plastics. Now you're, more on the, the metal side. But from a trend perspective, what are some of the biggest trends that you're seeing from an advanced manufacturing perspective?
Yeah, so I would say one thing I'm seeing a lot more of is the digital twins. So I know BMW, Mercedes, especially. I mean, they are building entire plants. I mean, fully automated, functioning plants, essentially on paper before they even break ground. And which is an extreme case, but to me, that's where the industry is going. And you really, with the technology we have, why not do that? It just, any engineer will tell you, you can only go so far using most time studies or something like that. And, I mean, it's that's a big trend I'm seeing. A lot more MES or, a lot more software systems where manufacturers are connecting all the assembly machines together so that the machines can communicate and they can know when there's a defect, so they can not cycle when that part comes into the station. Also, too, to monitor the machine performance. So I think that comes in more on the business side. A lot more operations leaders are looking for that information. So yeah, and of course AI. Everybody's talking about AI and AI AI degenerative and generative and all this stuff. But I mean, it is, to me, AI is just rapid research is basically what it is. But again, if the technology is there, why not use it? So.
Yeah, for sure. It's super cool. I mean, all these softwares nowadays, I think, have the ability to take all of this data. So if we can utilize, large language models and AI for, to get more, like you said, it's just a big, a data analysis. We can like use that to make everybody's life easier and more streamlined. Why not?
Why not? And I've seen more, for a long time, it's just been traditional use, so machine performance and production line efficiency. But, ways that I see it being used is more on the people side, like, understanding how operators can perform tasks faster than others, but maintain the same quality, understanding, retention of production workers, why can we not keep production workers, or even using it to assess the skill sets of maintenance techs, engineers, to understand where are the gaps where we need to upskill them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's amazing. So I know we're getting close on time and I want to be cognizant of it, but what advice would you have? It's an interesting world we live in right now. Job seeking is not the easiest right now, but you've done it multiple times. You've created roles for yourself, you've persevered. What advice would you have for people that are maybe either looking to pivot their careers like you did and or are currently job seeking and on the market?
So, two things. First, I would say one thing that I've always strived to do is find the space where these three things intersect, which is I like what I'm doing, I'm good at what I'm doing, and the business needs that skill set. So, think about that. And then also, too, look for people that are in those type of roles and reach out to them and just connect with them and ask them if you can have a conversation about their career journey and how they ended up there, what advice they would give you. And honestly, you would be surprised how willing and open people are to help you and just have a 30-minute conversation about their career journey and give you advice. So, and LinkedIn is a great platform to do that. It gives you access to people you wouldn't normally have access to. So that would be my advice. And another thing is just be intentional about it. Don't just blast out a generic resume to a bunch of companies. Read the job description, tailor your resume to that job description.
Oh my gosh, you're like reading my mind right now. I'm going to share something. So I swear, people, Trent and I did not discuss this ahead of time. You're going to laugh when I show you what I'm going to share here. So I have a master class. I was even debating, do I even share it? But you kind of teed me up for it too easily. I do have a master class coming up on networking, and that's literally what you just said is exactly, what we're going to be working on. It's so personally, we're coming into the holidays and job seeking and getting hired in the holidays. I'm not going to lie. It's a little bit tough. People are in and out of the office and everything, but December is my ultimate favorite month to network. And meet people. And that's how, like I said at the beginning, that's how I met you, Trent, was literally just, I'd love to hear about your career journey. And I ask that all the time. And I think, like you said, as long as you're authentic and you're real and you're genuine, people are good. People want to help.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested, we're going to be launching this beginning through the first 2 weeks of December. It's going to be 4 classes. It's an hour and a half a session. And I know you're probably thinking, holy shit, an hour and a half is a long time. But we're going to do some like learning, and then we're going to use the second half of it to actually do the networking and do the reach out, because I know it's something that can be a little bit uncomfortable and that we can put off when we, I'll just do that later. So we're going to spend the time to do that during this. And then if anybody, wants to check things out, if there's any leaders out there that I love to highlight people like Trent. And if you want to share your career journey, that would be amazing. I would, love to highlight you. I'd love to learn a little bit more about you. If you're a job seeker out there and just want to chat, if you go to my LinkedIn page, there's just you can click on my Calendly, and I would love to just talk with you. But I'm so thankful, Trent, for you spending the time with us, and your story is truly inspirational. I know we could go on and on and on. Like, we've talked at length about it. Are you okay if somebody has questions for you? Can they DM you on LinkedIn, or is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. I've gotten where I am in life because a lot of people helped me along the way. So, least I can do is help others along their journey.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for your time. I know you have definitely, you made a huge impression on me, and then things, they snowball, right? So now I can help more people because I know you, and I know you've made an impression on the people watching this. So just thank you so much. And have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care. Bye, guys.
Bye.